Hey there, here's a quick demo of this multi-agent system that is meant to answer questions about stores and store intelligence based on what we saw previously in the other demo. And we can now bring in market research as well as a part of it. So just like the previous example, we can go in here and say, hey, what are the sales forecasts for store 110 for the next 6 months. And you can see what happens here when I do this. It goes to the triage agent and it resolves and figure out like which of these other agents that it needs to go ask this question. And it hands it off to that agent, and the agent picks up from there and uses the appropriate tooling. So let's go ask this question. You can see the triage agent starts off, and now we can see the enterprise intelligence agent then goes in and chooses this tool. And the tool that it chose is the same retail sales store performance Genie Room. And we can see the code here is actually using the AI forecast, right? So we saw this in the previous demo, and just like the previous demo, it's going to go figure out like what the forecast is, and it's going to come back with the result. So that's great. Well, we have that. It's cool, right? So we have this table nicely for the forecast. Excellent. But what more can we do? We can still pull, we can have policy queries. So in this case, if we have the question about overtime overwork policy, it's going to go pull a vector search index, and it's going to come back with the response here. But more importantly, what we truly want to do is mix an organization's data intelligence, intelligence about their own assets, in this case based on where the store 110 is located. What are the demographics of the area? If you can get this demographics, again, this is something that you can get from census data, but in my simple demo, I don't have access to LexisNexis or Expedia data. So I'm going to pull this data live to get this response, right? So now, instead of using this enterprise intelligence agent, we can see it's using the market intelligence agent, and it's going to go fetch the information from this other tool, this other agent, where it knows the store 110 is located in a particular state, and then it's going to get the census information, and it's going to go do some research, and it's going to give us this whole research piece back to us, right? So once again, for us to be able to do this, this needs to be grounded in our truth of the company where this particular location is at, right? So in this case, store 110 is located in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you come down here, it not only got that part right, it looked up the census data and it did some research, and it lays out the whole report for us. So that's excellent, and we can confirm this by enabling this debug mode. And in the debug mode, we can see that it went from the triage agent to the market intelligence agent. That's the handoff that happened. And then it pulled the enterprise data to figure out that the store was located in Phoenix, Arizona. And then it got census information. It did some research, and it summarized it nicely for us, right? So that's great. And what more can it do? It can do simpler market research stuff as well, right? So we can have, in this case, if I was an analyst and I'm looking at figuring out what kind of call for payroll needs to go on a special at this time of the year, and it needs to take into consideration the demographics of these two states. And if I were to ask this question, now it goes off to the triage agent, which then goes off to the market intelligence agent, and then it does some interesting things, right? So it does the research, and it's going to go figure out what the market looks like, and eventually it is going to come back with a response. This is going to take a few seconds, maybe a minute or two, for it to go do this. So I'm going to pause here, and we'll pick it up after things come back. So there you have it. We see that we have now gotten this report, and it tells me the demographic information for Florida, the demographic information for Virginia, and it sort of like does the market analysis, gives me recommendations, it talks to me about some considerations and next steps. Of course, we can summarize the entire thing, and that should not go to any of these other agents. Instead, the triage agent should be able to summarize this without handing off to these two other agents. That's the other part, right? So if it's simple enough, the triage agent should be able to use things that are in the context and then respond back for us quite simply. Okay, I'm going to clear this conversation, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.